Welcome back. If you've been following along with the series, playlist in the cards now, we've just defeated Tigrex in the key quest, Tigrex Interception. Today we'll be fighting a Diablos in the key quest, Horned Wyvern Hunt. Diablos are large herbivorous monsters that are incredibly territorial. Their most prominent feature are the two horns on their heads that they use to charge down and gore anything that would intrude in its area. When enraged, they start to breathe smoke. They become very fast, and their charge attacks may start to be more oppressive and harder to avoid. As if that weren't bad enough, they will also commonly burrow underground to catch their target off guard and attack from below, using its incredible sense of hearing to pinpoint where to attack. These two aspects can be used against it, however, as a charging Diablos can get its horns stuck in walls and other parts of the environments, and while burrowed, its sensitive hearing can be exploited with a well-timed sonic bomb, causing it to get stuck in the ground, leaving it open to attack. For cutting and impact weapons, its highest hit zone is the stomach, but it can be hard to reach safely, as there are many attacks that will punish you if you're too close. In fact, due to a couple of very troublesome attacks, getting close with a melee weapon can prove to be very frustrating. I found the most success and consistency by using a bow, and that's what I'll be recommending for this hunt. The best place to hit a Diablos with shot type damage will be the tail, though not the tail tip, followed by an equally respectable hit zone of its wings. These can be easily enough hit by using the arc shot of a bow, where your shots will rain down from above. Equipping an armor set that extends the range of your evasion will help a lot with getting out of the way of Diablos' charge, and when combined, these things will make our hunt much simpler than it otherwise would be. Let's go over Diablos' attacks, and then I'll show you an example hunt using the bow. If you enjoy my content, I'd appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel, and consider joining the YouTube membership. The more support I get, the more capable I'll be to make these kinds of videos. If this is your first time hunting Diablos, go to Area 9 and the cutscene will play. Otherwise, take the shortcut in camp and check Area 8. That's where he spawns, though he may leave if you don't get there fast enough. I have been trying to get a majestic horn for the gunner armor for such a long time. I've fought this guy nearly 50 times at the time of this recording. Needless to say, I've gotten pretty good at the fight. Needless to say, I won't be recommending the grind. Also, just to prove a point of how incredibly powerful this particular equipment set is against Diablos, I'm not going to be using any power coatings or seeds. As with all of my videos, I highly recommend that you bring everything that you want to. V-lines, buffs, traps, meats, etc. Don't just follow what I do blindly. I'm giving you a replicable loadout to add on to. That being said, if you're a bit afraid to use bow because you'll run out of coatings, well, hopefully after this you'll realize the coatings are a nice bonus. The strategy we'll be using, exclusively for this fight, is using arc shots. Shout out to chat for recommending me to use bow. I couldn't find if anyone mentioned arc shots specifically though. There's really not much to it. Once you learn the timing and spacing for his and your attacks, you just aim for his tail and or wings. Or don't even aim at all, and just spam him with arc shots. It's pretty funny how good it is. If you can hold a charge without rolling, you can punish his charge attack even when enraged, but it's very risky. He almost hit me there. When I was shooting arc shots without aiming, I found that I was too close for it to hit him properly. Try and pay attention to what your natural aiming distance is, and adjust that if you're off a little bit. I was just being stupid there, honestly. If I just rolled, I would have been fine. Nice stagger. I didn't feel safe doing an arc shot here, so I just let go a normal one. If you're using coatings, I'd recommend you roll out and try again, but, I mean, like I said, the coatings are kind of a bonus for this quest. Diablos is enraged now. He'll be much faster, which is a big problem for any hunters in the area. Oh gosh, I guess that's me. He's doing a triple charge here. I got a cheeky arc shot on his second charge because I was able to hold my charge during his first one. I now get some free ones here because he taunts after doing the triple charge. Remember to sharpen, heal, rebuff, etc. when following a monster. Diablos eat cactus, by the way. That's what he's doing now. The extra evade distance we get from the Nargacuga armor is so incredibly useful in this hunt. By the way I'm aiming and holding triangle is by doing what's called the claw grip on my controller. It's not too hard to figure it out. You should look it up if you've never tried it or don't know what it is. It sounds like bait, but I'm serious. I was considering not using sonic bombs, but at this point, I think I'm trying to put him out of his misery. Normally when you use sonic bombs a lot, you'll deal so much damage that it'll push him into an enrage. In the older games at least, this was so he had a chance to get out of an area without you bullying him non-stop. So I legit thought he was leaving the area. Now, just in case, I don't want you to be playing risky just because I know the fight really well, okay? Just because I'm holding the charge sometimes instead of rolling to avoid his charges, doesn't mean I want you to do that right away. Hopefully what I'm doing is getting across well enough. For this fight, honestly, just telling someone to spam arc shots on him might be good enough advice. But hopefully everything else helps you out as well, and if you really insist on not using a bow, then I wish you luck, and let me know if you figure something else out. I originally tried Lance, and that was an awful matchup. I might not have tried bow if it wasn't recommended to me by chat, so thank you again. I'd like to find good matchups for all monsters eventually, but I definitely couldn't do that alone. Also, trust me, I was having an awful time until I tried bow and got good with it. I didn't use any potions in this quest, but I was running out before. That's just how it goes, so don't give up. Damn Delex. To make either of the Diablos armor sets, this is what you'll need. When carving Diablos, you can get Diablos Shell, Diablos Fang, or Diablos Ridge. When capturing Diablos, you can get 2 Diablos Fangs, Diablos Shell, Diablos Tailcase, Diablos Ridge, or Diablos Marrow. When carving a Diablos' tail, you can get Diablos Tailcase, Diablos Shell, or Diablos Marrow. When breaking both of Diablos' horns, you can get Twisted Horns or Majestic Horns. When picking up a shiny, you can get Wyvern Tears or Diablos Ridge. It took me a very long time to get a Majestic Horn, despite being apparently an 8% chance. You need 1 Majestic Horn for the waste of either armor set. As with all rare drops, if you want to make one of the armor sets, I recommend you try and farm for it, say 5 or 10 times, however many times you'd like to, and if you don't get it by then, just move on. I'll be offering an alternative to the waste piece, so you can make the rest of the armor just fine and still get the skills you normally would have. By default, the Blademaster Armor gives you these skills: Tremor Resistance, Stamina Thief, Critical Draw, and the negative skill Status Attack Down. Tremor Resistance does what it says on the tin. It allows you to resist tremors. The tremor is kind of like a roar, in the sense that it will stun you for a short duration. It's worth noting that when you're tremored, you will recover with your weapon sheathed as well. Where most monsters will roar at you, Only a few of them will ever use tremors, or ever use them in a way that you may want to have a resistance to them. The ones that come to mind that we fought so far are Volvidon, Uragon, and most notably Duramboros. Ignactor, the next monster we're fighting, has some tremors as well, though they're easy enough to avoid with some practice. This skill will always be extremely niche, as against most monsters it doesn't even give you anything, so keep that in mind. That being said, if you do find yourself getting caught by tremors often while you're being aggressive, this may be a skill worth trying out. However, if you're not really trying to find an opening, you'd be better off avoiding the tremor effect entirely and not worrying about using this skill. Stamina Thief will increase the rate of buildup of exhaustion on monsters. Exhaustion is a hard status effect to talk about, since I don't have any overlay that can display specific numbers like I can with stun, paralysis, sleep, and poison. However, exhaustion is a status effect that builds up over time from impact attacks, regardless of where you hit the monster. Once exhaustion has fully built up, the monster will be staggered with a splash of saliva to indicate it. When this happens, the monster will also lose a chunk of its stamina. When a monster's stamina reaches 0, it will become exhausted. It's worth noting that monsters will usually become exhausted on their own, in normal circumstances, but that a monster cannot become exhausted while enraged. They will become exhausted right as they exit enraged state, but it won't ever be during an enrage, so you can't interrupt them that way. As a side note, whenever monsters go to eat food, they're actually recovering their stamina. And when a monster has you pinned, that will usually recover their stamina as well. If you're using impact weapons or punishing draw, and you like how monsters slow down and are less dangerous while exhausted, this skill may be worth picking up for you. Not a bad skill, all things considered. Critical Draw is essentially a greatsword skill, though you can use it with other weapons if you do unsheath attacks often enough. It's so good on greatsword since it does a lot of damage with its unsheath attack, and it can charge it up. Boosting that by a percentage will be way more impactful than a much weaker attack from Sword and Shield, for example. The status attack down will lower the status value on your weapon, if it has any. If this skill is grayed out and or you're not using any status ailments, then it has no effect and you can ignore it. It is easily removable with a decoration though, and speaking of which, if you have the whole armor set, you have 6 decoration slots to work with. Depending on your use case, you can ignore the status attack down skill entirely, but since you can get an extra skill with 5 slots, you can possibly use the 6th one to get rid of that skill if you really want to. If you have a charm with 5 or more points in a skill you want, you could use that with this set, and use the remaining 5 or 6 slots to activate that skill. This is a great armor set for that, so look around for charms with that breakpoint. While I don't use charms in my videos to hopefully reduce the amount of grinding and make the loadout more replicable, looking at the charms I currently have, not having farmed much at all, I could get Negate Paralysis, Critical Eye +1, Defense Up Small, etc. Otherwise, there are plenty of 1-slot 2-value decorations, most notable of which is Speed Sharpening. If nothing else, I'd recommend you use 5 slots for that skill, and just ignore the status attack down, unless you really want to get rid of it. Then put in a Disabler Jewel to add 1 status point and remove the negative skill. With 5 Grinder Jewels, we're left with these skills: Tremor Resistance, Stamina Thief, Critical Draw, Speed Sharpening, and the negative skill status attack down, that you can get rid of by adding in 1 Disabler Jewel. Charms are extremely useful, and while I haven't quite covered them yet, you should use them if you got them. If we take into consideration we have 6 armor slots, one of them is a 2-slot, which can get us up to 3 skill points alone if we use a 2-slot decoration. In total, we can have upward of 8 skill points, so your charm would only need to have 2 in order to activate your skill. And then there's a possibility of you having slots on your weapon. The potential here is pretty great. However, this is all assuming you can get your hands on a Majestic Horn for the waist piece. And I don't recommend grinding for that. As tempting as all that charm magic sounds, like I said, you can test your luck, farm Diablos a few times. If you just can't seem to get it, then just do this instead. To get these armor skills without the Diablos coil, you can instead wear the Volvidon Fault with these decorations. 1 Drain Jewel 2, which will require 2 Naga Tail Spikes and a Hot Spring ticket. You can get these tickets by using the Hot Spring enough times in town before quests, or doing Hot Spring quests. If you do both, you should get a ticket eventually. And 2 Draw Jewel 1s, which will take 1 Twisted Horn and 2 Diablo Shells each. If you farm Diablos for any amount of time, these resources will be pretty abundant. If you're breaking both the horns to try to get a Majestic Horn, you'll either get 1 or a Twisted Horn instead, guaranteed. And shells are common enough. This will give us the skills Stamina Thief, Critical Draw, and Tremor Resistance. That still leaves us with 2 open slots, 3 if you use something like the Zenogre Hammer. With a good enough charm, you can make that work pretty well, but I'll leave it at that. Speaking of Hammer, Critical Draw along with Stamina Thief makes this armor set kinda feel like a hammer set, since hammers can also make a decent use of Critical Draw since you can unsheath into a charge attack. But if you use Greatsword, you will make great use of Critical Draw for sure. And I guess if you use the slap attack, you can get some usage out of Stamina Thief. The added Tremor Resistance means you can get really close to monsters when they would otherwise stagger you with a big slam. It's almost like getting an opening from earplugs, though a bit more niche. By default, the Gunner armor gives us these skills: Stamina Thief, Use Any Normal, Pierce/Pierce Up, and the negative skill Status Attack Down. Stamina Thief was explained in the Blademaster section. Please refer to that section for more information on that. Use Any Normal is a bowgun specific skill that unlocks the usage of any normal shot types. Bowguns can only use a limited number of shot types. Some bowguns don't have access to normal level 3. This skill simply allows any bowgun to use normal 1, normal 2, and normal 3 shots, even if you normally couldn't. And Pierce/Pierce Up is a skill that increases the damage of piercing range attacks by 10%. This works for both bow and bowgun. The negative skill was also explained in the Blademaster section, though I'll reiterate that if you're not using status shots or coatings, then this skill won't affect you, and if it is a concern, it's easy enough to remove with a single decoration. Speaking of which, again, my recommended decorations for the Gunner armor are the same as the Blademaster set. Simply put, this armor is great right out of the box, with 6 extra slots. You can use 5 of them to activate one of the many 2-skill 1-slot decorations, such as Combination Pro, to ensure your bullet combines always make the maximum amount that they can, then use the 1 remaining slot to get rid of status attack down, or you can use the slots with a charm. Again, since the gloves have 2 slots open, you can use a 2-slot decoration to fill it, which will usually give you 3 instead of the 2 it would normally give you if you use 2 1-slot decorations. This means you can have around 5 or 7 armor skill points using just decorations depending on if you get rid of the negative skill, meaning that you would just need a charm with 3 or 5 points to activate it. If it has multiple levels, if you have a charm with 8 or 10 points, you could possibly get the second level. But the cost of this versatility is getting your hands on a rare Majestic Horn. If you have any experience like I did, you may end up hunting 30 or more before getting one. So to avoid farming for the Majestic Horn, you can instead use the Uragon coat along with these decorations. 1 Shot plus Jewel 1, which just requires 2 Mustard Bone M's, and 1 Pierce Jewel 1, which will require an Uragon Jaw and 2 Hercudrums. Hercudrums can be obtained from bug net spots in the volcano in areas 1, 2, and 4. This will give us these skills: Stamina Thief, Use Any Normal, and Pierce/Pierce Up. To be fair, I'm not much of a gunner myself, and I've heard Pierce is somewhat lackluster in this game. However, since using bows so much against Diablos, it feels like a pretty decent set to use with a bow that uses Pierce Shot against a monster big enough to take advantage of arc shots, since they will build up exhaustion as well. You could use arc shots to wear the monster down, then focus on using pierce shots when it's exhausted. Though in practice, I don't know if that would really be efficient, but it sounds like an interesting way to make use of these skills. As for bowguns, you could use exhaust shots to make use of Stamina Thief. Could be a good way to wear the monster down. On top of that, using this with some sort of bowgun with powerful pierce shots but lacking normal shots could be a pretty good utility. You could use the pierce shots as your main damage, and rely on normal shots if you run out. Something like that. Again, not a gunner here, so take what I say with a grain of salt, especially since I've been told that pierce shots in Portable 3rd aren't as good as some other games. Still, you should play how you want to regardless. Well, there you have it. This hunt showed me just how incredibly strong the bow is in this game. As for Diablos, I suppose the ranged weapon has always been his biggest weakness. Be sure to try out the bow if you're trying to clear or farm this quest. It's actually incredibly good against Ignactor too, the next monster we'll be hunting. Try using the Royal Ludroth bow, Sponge Gear 3, and spamming arc shots. It makes the otherwise tricky fight into an entire joke, and you don't even need power coatings. Things are going to get tougher from here on out, but I know you're ready for it, and the challenge will keep things interesting as you get better and better. I'll keep doing my best if you promise to do yours. Until next time.